welcome to the Witches and Prose podcast. My name is Haley Camarillo, author of Fury and Flame, book one of the Witching Hour series out this fall. Today I have with me author Courtney Lillard, the author of the Dark Angel series. Hi, thank you for being on today. I'm so excited to have you.
Hi, Haley. I'm happy to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about the Dark Angel series?
Yes. So right now I have three books out. The first one is called The Shadow's Grasp. The second one is called The Guardian's Deception. The third one is called The Puppet's Blight. And the fourth one is called The Angel's Descent. And that one will be out in late July. It is an epic fantasy series that follows primarily the protagonist named Coura, who is a dark mage trainee, and she basically learns that she can wield demonic energy, which is illegal in their country. And so she finds herself the target for obviously the law in the country, as well as a race of what are called angels in the series.
Okay, that sounds very exciting. I like that.
Thank you.
So what inspired the Dark Angel series?
Honestly, I've probably had this idea rolling around in my head for the last like 10 years. And when I started college, I can't even remember what started it because it's been so long. But as the years progressed, before I even considered writing, I had thought about what I wanted the story to be. And actually, a lot of times when I think of the stories, I'll play it out almost like a stage play with different scenes. And a lot of it is based on music as well. So I might listen to a soundtrack or a song and then picture a scene from the story and kind of go from there. So it's been a culmination of just years and years of ideas that I've gathered inspiration from other fantasy genre, the subgenres from other media, such as movies, video games, books, TV shows. I mean, everything has just come together. And I finally had the opportunity to write it back in 2018 after I finished graduate school. I had about a year where I didn't have anything to do. I was in between jobs and my husband was finishing school too. It was right before we were going to move. So I just had time and I thought, well, I might as well write it all down so it's not just floating around in my head anymore.
That is awesome. That is really cool. I love how you take so much inspiration from like outside sources and the music. I definitely really resonate with that. So that's really cool. So what started you on your actual writing journey? Was it just that you had the time and you were like, hey, you know what? Let me take advantage of this.
A part of it, I would say, is definitely that it's so hard to find the time to write, as I'm sure you know too, and any author, just taking the time to sit down and have nothing else to focus on. That was a huge, huge help. But also, I had always had it on my bucket list to publish a book, and I don't know where that came from because, again, I had just had ideas. I didn't actually think about creating a series or going so in depth with anything, but I knew I just wanted to publish a book. I thought it would be fun. And so the written media just happened to be the most convenient for me at the time for sharing those ideas with others. And so I just sat down and started writing without even the intention of publishing. I just thought I'll get all of these ideas down on quote unquote paper and then we'll go from there.
That is awesome. So okay, are is there uh is there any romance in the Dark Angel series?
There is. So right now, it's a little confusing because I have the first four books, then there's a bit of a time skip to actually, I had honestly intended to end the series after the fourth book. But of course, more ideas just came. So you go with it. And I had a time skip for I think it's 2 years, 3 years in there. And I thought, well, there are two characters I would definitely ship. So why not just try it and see? And I'm not a lot of the series, how I wrote it and my style was based on what I like to read. And I'm not a huge romance enthusiast,
Mhm.
but I like the subplots in there. I like when the relationships develop. And a lot of what I focus on as a writer is character development. And so those two characters that I ship have sort of that development. And I thought, well, with a time skip, you give it a little bit more of a realism in there. And so I did put them together for the fifth book that I do have it all written. Currently, I'm at the end of the sixth book I'm writing, which might be the end of the series. I don't know. We'll see. But they will get together by the end of the sixth book. I won't spoil any more than that, but there is a little bit of romance later on.
Awesome. That is really cool. So, you kind of answered my next question. So you definitely are very character based with your books. What is the plotting process like? Are you more of a pantser, a plotter? How does that work?
Oh, I'm definitely a plotter. I can I I thought I could be a pantser. I thought I might be able to try it, but ultimately my head just goes back to outlining. And when I do that, it's not super detailed, but I will have my document. I'll have where I'm writing, and then below that, just a different breakdown of the scenes and the character switches with their perspectives. So I don't I'm not one of those crazy people who can just sit down and write and whatever comes to their mind. I definitely have everything planned out in my head and have to write it down before so I don't forget anything.
That's that's really cool. I have become more of a plotter in recent years, but I'm definitely more on the pantsing side of it. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
always so interesting to see the differences like in people's thought processes for it.
Oh, absolutely. And there's no one right way. And that's the most amazing part of any creative field, but especially with writing, I just, like you said, I don't know how people can do it different ways, but everybody has their way and it works for
Yeah,
them.
exactly. As long as it works, keep doing it.
Right.
Um, what was your biggest struggle, did you feel like, with writing this series?
Oh, I struggle with other outside influences, I would say. So, what I mean by that is if I am reading a different series, if I am watching a different TV show that is somewhat similar, some of that will seep into, I don't know, my subconscious, and I can see it in my writing. The biggest issue I had, and I'm working on it, it's definitely gotten so much better than it was to begin with. Um, but I was reading the Throne of Glass series by
Mhm.
Sarah J. Maas when I first started writing. And my whole writing process, like I said, I was just writing down whatever came to mind. I wasn't organizing it or really thinking about how it would be structured as a book because I had no intention to publish. But when I did consider publishing and I did go back and read the first book, I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds just like her protagonist. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want to be like that. I don't want her like that at all.
Yeah.
So that's not how I imagined it. So just going back and making those edits. But that's been more of a challenge. And honestly, it really stinks because I like to read and I like to expose myself, like I mentioned, to different forms of fantasy, but you have to sort of set that part of your brain aside as a writer, as the one creating,
Yeah.
and then just sit back and enjoy what someone else has created.
Definitely. No, I completely understand that. Sarah
Mhm.
J. Maas was also a huge inspiration for my
Oh
first.
yeah.
So, and there were similarities with one of the characters, and I went back, and my husband was like, "Yeah, he sounds a lot like Rhysand," and I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, gotta fix that."
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so I totally understand that. It's really hard though, especially because like
Yeah.
everyone's always like, reading is like the best thing you can do as an author is reading
Oh
and learning your
yes.
genre and all that. And
Hmm.
and but it's so hard because like you said, it just kind of seeps into your unconscious, and then all
Hmm.
of a sudden you look and you're like, oh, that was really similar. Didn't intend for that to happen.
Right. Well, and that's why the beta readers and the
Yes.
ARC readers can tell you
Oh
this
yeah.
sounds exactly like so and so, and then you change it.
Yes. Um, so do you have a favorite character in your series?
I have many, as I'm sure most
Talk
people
about a
do.
couple of them.
Obviously, the protagonist is, I would say she's my favorite. I based a lot of her character on my husband. He thinks is hilarious because she starts out as a very naive, a very ignorant, and just kind of a bratty 16-year-old, because of course all 16-year-olds are like that. But and then, like I had mentioned, I focus a lot on character development throughout the series, not just on one book. And so as it progresses and as she overcomes different issues and different experiences, you see her become an adult and become a fully trained mage. And so that's again what I take pride in as an author. And I love hearing, I have often heard that people will hate her in the first book, even the second book, because again, that's how she's supposed to be, so that you can see that character growth as it progresses. She's very determined, very headstrong, and readers will see that she does care about people and she will fight to protect the people she cares about. You just don't see that right away because she doesn't have those friendships. She doesn't have those relationships developed already. So she would be the first. The second character is her mentor, who's a master dark mage. His name is Byron. And not to talk myself up, but I based a lot of my character, my personality, uh, on his character. And so he is a very professional, a very scholarly person. And so he has a lot of responsibilities thrown onto his shoulders that he has to focus on. And it's almost for the greater good, is his mentality. Everything that he does is for other people and to help them and to fulfill those responsibilities that have been placed on him. While at the same time, he is essentially the only person in Cora's life at the time of the beginning of the series. And so he is looking out for her even when other people don't. And even when she discovers that she can use that demonic power and she becomes a threat to other people, people want to kill her essentially because it's that dangerous. And he's the one who's there, and he's the one who's protecting her humanity essentially.
Oh, I like that. That's really
Mhm.
cool. I love
Thank you.
how much of like yourself and your husband you put into the characters. I love that. It's really funny.
Thank you.
It's really
I
cool.
can't tell too many people because then they'll be like, those people who read the book will be like, oh, I can see that, if it's good or bad.
That's fun. That's awesome though. I like that a lot. I feel like yeah, it's always so easy to put our like a lot of ourselves and the
Mhm.
people that we know into characters. So,
Right.
um, do you have, I know this is one of the questions we went over. Do you have a favorite scene, or like
Oh,
are one of the books more your favorite than the other, I guess? Like
oh, that's
I
I
know.
like that question. I like it. My favorite book is the third book
Okay.
because so another thing that I try to do is expand on the world as the books progress essentially. So the first one really takes place. I do have a map in the beginning of my books that I had it on paper, but I never put it into the books until about a month ago. I decided I'll design it and then put it in because I
Mhm.
never thought about the reader wanting to actually trace the
Mhm.
layout of all of the towns and the cities within the series. And so putting that in, I actually realized in the first book, they really only go to two or three places, two or three cities,
Mhm.
and are traveling a lot. The second book goes a little bit more, they go a little bit more south in the country. And then in the third book, Coura goes off on her own essentially for the second half of the book. And that's really the first time when she's doing something on her own. And so there comes a point, because I switch character perspective. So Coura will be off doing her own thing. Byron is the other main perspective that I will follow. He'll be off doing his own thing. And there's a point where they meet, and there's essentially a battle with what in the series they're called demonic creatures, which are animals that essentially become possessed by that demonic energy, which is a life, it is a presence within the series. So that can take over and then make these deformed creatures. And so they end up coming together, and Coura meets new companions. Byron is there with their old companions, and in that climactic fight is where they meet, and where I think Coura realizes, okay, I can't do things on my own. I need other people to help me if I'm going to get anywhere in the future. And I'm trying to tiptoe around the plot a little bit, because those demonic creatures and the demon who has that energy that ends up possessing them play a huge role in the third book. And I like ending the books kind of with a little twist too, or new information being thrown in. So there's so many scenes that I could pick, but that one definitely sticks out. The third book is just near and dear to my heart.
That is really cool. It sounds super exciting. I cannot wait to go pick up a copy of it. Read the series. So I think that is all of our questions for today, but I had so much fun learning about this. I can't wait to to go through and read it and let you know and leave a review for you.
Thank you. Well, and I'm sure it's always fun to talk about books and any, whoever they're by, and learning what the behind the scenes thoughts are and what went into it. So I thank you for having me on here.
Oh my gosh, of course. I really enjoyed it. And thank you, readers, for watchers, for watching this episode of the Witches and Prose podcast. Courtney, you have a great day, and thank you so much.
You too. Thank